Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here today. I want to speak to the part of you that's been bruised, silenced, or made to feel unworthy after rejection. We've all faced moments where someone walked away and we were left holding the weight of it. But today isn't about them. It's about you. It's about understanding that the heartbreak isn't always in the goodbye, but in the silence that follows the silence you give yourself. This is your moment to reclaim your voice, your value, and your strength, not through being chosen, but by finally choosing yourself. Let's talk about that. Rejection hurts. There's no way around that. It stings in a way that feels like it's cutting through your sense of identity, your self-worth, your entire story. You start questioning everything: what you said, how you looked, if you were too much, or maybe not enough. But what I want to tell you, and what I need you to really hear, is that rejection isn't the end, it's a mirror. When someone rejects you, it doesn't mean you're unlovable. It doesn't mean you're unworthy of attention, affection, or commitment. What it means is that someone made a decision based on their asterisk perspective, their priorities, their fears, their emotional readiness, or lack thereof. And yet we so often internalize that decision as a reflection of our own inadequacy. We think, if I were better, they would have stayed. But that's a lie. And it's a damaging one. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that's cracked. If you see a distorted reflection, you don't blame yourself. You know the mirror's broken. But in relationships, we take other people's distorted views of us and treat them like the truth. Their inability to see your value doesn't mean you're lacking it. It just means they weren't capable or willing to recognize it. I've seen people shrink themselves after rejection. They fold inward, trying to analyze and reanalyze what went wrong, where they failed. But the truth is, you didn't fail. You just offered love to someone who wasn't ready or wasn't right. That's not failure, that's bravery. You don't control how someone receives your love. You only control the authenticity and intention behind what you give. And when you lead with authenticity, when you show up genuinely, vulnerably, you can walk away with your head held high, even if they don't choose you. Because the moment you define your worth by their acceptance, you hand over all your power. And the tragedy isn't just in being rejected. It's in believing that rejection means you're not good enough. That belief is the real wound, not the rejection itself. You might be tempted to rewrite yourself to be more appealing, more desirable, more of what they might have wanted. But if you do that, you lose the very thing that made you beautiful in the first place: your uniqueness, your truth, your integrity. So instead of asking, why didn't they choose me? Ask, why would I want someone who couldn't see me? That shift changes everything. It puts the power back in your hands. It reminds you that rejection isn't a verdict, it's redirection. It's the universe saying, not this door, not this person. There's more for you than this. Let them go. Let their decision reflect where they are, not who you are, because you are not defined by someone who couldn't recognize your worth. You are defined by the way you rise after they don't. You are still whole, even when they walk away. We like to believe that silence after a breakup is strength, that staying quiet, showing no emotion, pretending we've moved on without a scratch somehow proves we're above the pain. But let me ask you something: who are you protecting with that silence? Because often the silence isn't strength. It's self-abandonment. You go quiet not because you're at peace, but because you think your pain is too much. You think if you express how hurt you really are, you'll seem weak, needy, or worst of all, unlovable. So you keep it in, you act unfazed, you scroll past their posts like they never existed, you post the happy photos, the filtered smiles, the caption that says I'm good, when you're actually anything but. That's not healing, that's hiding, and I get it. Silence feels safe. It's easier than having to sit with the ache, the rejection, the disappointment. It's easier than speaking up and not getting the response you want. But in that silence, something dangerous happens. You start to disconnect from yourself. You start to believe your feelings don't matter, that your experience isn't valid, that you're not allowed to fall apart. You can't heal if you're not willing to feel, and feeling doesn't mean breaking down in front of them, or begging for answers, or spilling your pain into every text message. It means being honest with yourself. It means looking at the hurt and saying, yes, this did affect me. Yes, I wanted more. Yes, this matters. You deserve that honesty. You deserve to give yourself a voice in your own story. Because if you stay silent, not just with them, but with yourself, then the real heartbreak isn't that they left. It's that you abandoned yourself in the aftermath. You stayed quiet when your heart was screaming. You played it cool when you needed warmth. You numbed out when what you really needed was connection, compassion, and truth. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to miss them. You're allowed to feel angry, confused, disappointed. Those emotions don't make you weak. They make you human. And the moment you allow yourself to feel them, to acknowledge them, is the moment you start reclaiming your power. Don't confuse emotional silence with emotional maturity. Maturity isn't bottling things up. It's knowing how to process them in a healthy way. It's letting your pain have a voice without letting it define your identity. It's choosing to understand yourself instead of judge yourself for feeling too much. So speak up to yourself, to the people who love you, to the journal that's been sitting untouched on your shelf. You don't have to broadcast your heartbreak to the world, but you do have to stop silencing it within yourself. That's the only way you truly begin to heal. Don't let your silence become the heartbreak you carry forever. One of the hardest things to accept after someone walks away is this quiet, nagging belief that if you had just been a little more attractive, more interesting, more patient, more something, they would have stayed. And so you start rewinding the relationship in your mind, replaying every conversation, every moment, every version of you that maybe, just maybe, wasn't quite enough. But here's the truth that will change everything if you're brave enough to accept it. Your self-worth isn't earned through someone else's approval. We're conditioned to think that being chosen validates us, that if someone picks us, it means we're finally worthy. But all that does is make your confidence conditional, and the second someone doesn't choose you, it collapses. That's not real confidence. That's a performance you're putting on, waiting for applause that may never come. You weren't put on this earth to audition for someone's love. You're not here to convince anyone of your value. The people who are meant to be in your life really be in it, don't need to be sold. They see you, they feel you. They recognize the energy you bring, the heart you offer, the loyalty, the kindness, the complexity, and they meet it. Not with confusion, not with hesitation, but with clarity. The problem is, when we don't truly believe in our own worth, we chase it in other people. We start believing that if they pick us, if they stay, then that must mean we're enough. But what happens when they don't? Suddenly, all that self-doubt rushes in, and it feels like the foundation we were standing on disappears. But maybe it's not that you weren't enough. Maybe it's that they weren't ready for the level of love you were offering. Maybe they couldn't match the emotional availability you brought to the table. Maybe they were never supposed to be the person to hold your heart. That doesn't mean you're flawed. It means they weren't equipped to receive what you had to give. You don't have to change yourself to fit into someone else's life. You don't have to hustle for validation. You don't have to earn love by sacrificing your needs, your voice, or your boundaries. Love that's real doesn't demand that of you. When you tie your worth to whether someone accepts you or not, you're building your identity on something that can be taken away at any moment. That's why the real work isn't trying to win them back. It's standing in the mirror and saying, even if they didn't choose me, I still choose me. You don't need their stamp of approval to be valuable. You already are, and it's time you start living like you believe it. After a breakup, we get obsessed with what the other person said or didn't say. We wait for that message, that apology, that explanation that will somehow make it all make sense. But healing doesn't begin with what they tell you. It begins with what you tell yourself. You could wait forever for the perfect closure, the right words, the satisfying end to the story. But what if it never comes? What if they never give you the reasons you think you need? If your peace depends on someone else finding the right words, you'll stay stuck in their silence. That's not healing, that's emotional limbo. And in that space, the most dangerous voice you'll ever hear isn't theirs, it's your own. It's that quiet whisper that tells you maybe you weren't lovable enough. Maybe you said too much. Maybe you were too intense, too emotional, too difficult. That voice, if left unchecked, becomes the one that does the most damage. Not the breakup, not the rejection, not even their silence. You have to be careful with the stories you start telling yourself. After pain, the brain tries to fill in the gaps. When someone pulls away or disappears, your mind starts creating reasons. And more often than not, those reasons aren't kind. They are self-critical, heavy, and rooted in insecurity. But here's the thing, just because a thought shows up doesn't mean it's true. You get to choose whether to believe it or challenge it. So, what are you saying to yourself when no one's around? Are you being your own friend or your own enemy? Are you reminding yourself of your worth, your strength, your courage to love? Or are you punishing yourself for someone else's choice? When someone walks away from you, that doesn't mean you're unworthy. It means they made a decision that aligns with their journey. And while you can't control what they do, you can control how you respond to it. You can choose to let their absence rewrite your identity, or you can choose to reclaim your voice and decide what the story means to you. This is the part people overlook. They think healing is passive. They think time will just take care of it. But real healing, it's active, it's intentional, it's choosing every single day to feed your mind with truth instead of assumptions. It's looking in the mirror and saying, just because someone couldn't love me the way I needed doesn't mean I'm hard to love. The real conversation that matters isn't the one you had with them, it's the one you have with yourself after they're gone. That's where your power lives. That's where your healing starts. That's where you remind yourself that you were always worthy, and you still are. So many people hold themselves hostage to the idea of closure. They believe that in order to move on, they need that one last conversation, the one where everything is explained, all the loose ends are tied, and the pain finally makes sense. But the reality is, closure isn't something they give you. It's something you give yourself. We think that if we could just get a clear reason why they left, or why they changed, or why they didn't fight for us, then we'd be able to let go. But here's the truth. Even if they gave you all the answers you think you need, it still wouldn't erase the disappointment. It wouldn't undo the fact that they chose to walk away, and often their explanation wouldn't actually satisfy you. It would just open up more questions. Closure doesn't come from hearing what they have to say. It comes from deciding what you want to say to yourself moving forward. It's not about their words. It's about your decision to stop looking backward for meaning and start creating your own. And I know that's hard, because letting go without closure can feel like giving up on something unfinished. But not every story gets a clean ending. Sometimes people exit your life mid-sentence with no punctuation. They disappear, they avoid, they ghost, and that absence feels like a void you desperately want to fill. But trying to fill it with their words, their validation, their clarity, it will keep you stuck in a place where they still have control over your peace. You don't need them to apologize in order to forgive. You don't need their reasoning in order to understand your worth. And you don't need a final conversation to choose to move forward. Closure is a decision, not a dialogue. It's you deciding to stop waiting for someone else to explain your pain and instead saying, I don't need to understand why they left to understand that I deserve better. Sometimes you'll never know what was really going on in their heart or their mind. Sometimes people don't even fully understand their own behavior. And even when they do, they don't always have the courage to own it. That doesn't mean you have to carry the weight of their silence forever. Your healing doesn't need their participation. You can begin right now without them, without their input, without their permission. You can give yourself the closure you've been waiting for by choosing to close the chapter. Not because they told you it's over, but because you are ready to move on. Don't wait for someone who walked away to come back and make sense of the pain they left behind. You don't need their words to write your next chapter. You only need the courage to turn the page. There's a moment after heartbreak when everything feels still. You've cried, you've analyzed, you've tried to understand. And then there's this quiet space. In that space, you're faced with a choice. Do you keep chasing someone who walked away? Or do you turn your focus inward and choose yourself? That's the moment your comeback begins, not when they reach out, not when they finally see your worth, but when you decide that you don't need them to. There's a kind of power that comes from choosing yourself after someone else didn't. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's steady, grounded, and deeply personal. Choosing yourself doesn't mean pretending you're fine or denying that it hurt. It means accepting that while you didn't get the outcome you wanted, you're still worthy of love, respect, and joy. It means refusing to let rejection be the last word in your story. We spend so much energy trying to be chosen, hoping someone else will make us feel special, lovable, secure. But real self-worth is built when you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself every single day. In the little decisions, in the boundaries you set, in the way you speak to yourself when no one's around. Maybe they didn't see your value. Maybe they were unsure, inconsistent, or emotionally unavailable. That doesn't mean you're too much. It doesn't mean you're hard to love. It means they weren't capable of giving what you needed. And the most powerful thing you can do in that moment is stop trying to prove your worth and start protecting your peace. There's nothing more magnetic than a person who knows who they are and doesn't need to chase anyone to feel whole. When you choose yourself, you're no longer looking outward for permission to feel good about your life. You're building something stronger confidence that doesn't come from being validated, but from knowing that even when people leave, you don't leave yourself. You don't need to go back and convince them you're worthy. You don't need to hope they'll regret it or realize what they lost. The real victory is in what you do now with your time, your energy, your heart. Do you use this pain as a reason to shrink? Or do you let it refine you, deepen your self-respect, and raise your standards? This is where transformation happens. In the quiet rebuild, in the morning you get up and choose not to text them. In the moment you say no to someone who gives you crumbs. In the decision to walk into your future without dragging your past behind you. They may have rejected you, but your greatest comeback starts when you stop waiting for them to see you and finally see yourself.